Hello guys, welcome back to another video. We are working on the BMW E46 today with the M47 engine, and we're going to be replacing the entire drive belt kit assembly. Now then, I have a box here, quite a large box. This is a Gates drive belt kit. Now it actually comes with two belts because on this engine, on the M47, there actually is a drive belt, then a separate AC belt and tensioner. So I believe in this box there should be two belts, two tensioners, which actually come in two parts themselves, and then an idler pulley. But yeah, let's get this thing open and let's take a look at what is inside. Okay, so let's get this thing open then. Alright, first thing is first, we have two belts. The larger of the two, I'm guessing, is the main drive belt. I'm guessing this is the AC belt here, this much shorter one. Let's have a look what else we have. Okay, so for whatever reason, Gates likes to call everything a tensioner, which obviously it's not a tensioner. One of these is a idler pulley. I don't want to guess which one is, but yeah, one of these is an idler pulley. So let's just say, for example, it's this one. Then we still have four more boxes. Now, essentially, on this engine, because it is an early M47 engine, the tensioners are a little bit different to your regular tensioner. So they are actually built up of two parts. So you have your front main part of the tensioner, like you would in this picture here, but then you also have a, I guess like an arm or a shaft that goes through a bracket on the engine to the rear part of the tensioner. This is actually going to make things a bit more difficult and probably going to make it a bit more involved. Now, I've actually never replaced a tensioner like this particular one, so it's going to be something new for me to learn today. But yeah, obviously I'll show you exactly when we get to the car and exactly what we're working with. So I think the next thing to do is get outside and let's get cracking. Okay then, so first thing I'm going to do is just remove the engine covers just to give us as much visibility as possible. So then we can see the engine in a bit better detail now. The only thing that might be different to yours is the fact that we have a viscous fan and we don't have an EGR cooler or an EGR valve. Now, when it comes to the drive belt kit then, like I said, it's comprised of two tensioners and an idler pulley. So this is one of the tensioners here. We have another one here for the AC belt. And then we have this idler pulley here. Idler pulley, that should come off very easily. It's just held in by this Torx bolt, I believe. This tensioner, like I said, it's actually comprises of two parts. So you have the front section here, but then I believe this also goes through this bracket on the engine, which holds the, I believe, the alternator and the power steering pump in place. Then it goes through and it connects to the other part of the tensioner, and kind of a similar story with this one as well. I think the easiest thing is going to be removing the front part and see if we can somehow access the part at the back as well. I probably should have explained as well, if you do have your belts in place, which there is a good chance you may have if they have not snapped, then to remove them, all you need to do is get a breaker bar and a socket. I believe it is like a 24mm socket. We'll find out anyway. And then just rotate that, I believe, clockwise, and then that should take the tension off the belt. Should be able to slip it off. And pretty much the same for this one here as well. Now, if you do not have a tensioner for your AC belt, which there's a good chance you may not, then you may just have a stretch belt, in which case you do need a little tool that you insert into the belt and you rotate it and the belt will come off. So we'll do the easiest thing first then, which, like I said, is the idler pulley. It's just held in by one 6mm Allen bolt. So we'll go ahead and remove that. And there we are then, that's the idler pulley removed. Okay, next thing I'm going to do then is remove the pulley for the main drive belt tensioner. Now, I have the new one here, and essentially there is this nut here, which is what you can see down there, and that attaches to this lever on the rear with this 15mm bolt. So what I've done is I have a 15mm spanner on that nut on the rear, and then I'm just going to rotate the nut on the front clockwise, and then the pulley should then come off with any luck. Yep, so here is the pulley for the tensioner then removed. It's kind of in a few different parts now, it all just kind of fell apart when I went to remove it. Now the reason that I've removed this is just so I can see, hopefully see in a bit better detail kind of the situation with this tensioner. Okay, so I know this lever goes through, I don't know if is that through the engine block or is that through a bracket. I think that just goes through the engine block, and then it goes and sits into this thing here, which is, I guess, is part of the tensioner. I don't really know what it does, but yeah, if you take a look, you know, through there or down there, you cannot see a thing. Like, you cannot see this at all. So I think at the very least we're gonna have to remove the alternator, and hopefully we'll be able to see this thing. Okay then, so some time has passed and I'm pleased to announce that we can now gain access to that tensioner here at the back. Now it's actually bolted on from the front, so there is one bolt just here, and then there's also one bolt just above the crankshaft pulley in there. Now originally I thought I was going to have to remove the high pressure fuel pump, but with the alternator just leave it out the way, and with the power steering pump, you know, completely moved out of the way, I should be able to retrieve that. Now to remove this arm that goes to the front, you know, through the engine block, I believe there is actually a bolt in the center of this tensioner at the back, so if we can crack that loose, remove that, this arm should then lever out, I believe. So I went ahead and removed the two bolts from the front of the tensioner. Then I also removed the one bolt at the rear that was holding the shaft to it. Now the shaft should just pull out with a bit of persuasion. There we are, that's that removed. And now the back tensioner should just pull away. Yep. There we are. Damn, that was probably the hardest tensioner to remove I've ever had to do. Okay, so when it comes to the AC belt tensioner then, I actually find it's easier to access it from underneath. So with the car up in the air then, you can kind of see where it is. It is here. I guess it's kind of dark, but yeah, I've got my finger on it right now, and it's held in by the two bolts. So this one here, and then there's one just up here as well. These are actually hex bolts instead of Torx bolts, but it turns out that the bolt that holds the shaft and the rest of the tensioner, the part of the front in place, is this hex bolt. And I actually accessed that with a really long extension, and then I went through the opening for the sump, so I fed that through, got onto that bolt, and then obviously removed it. So now in theory this lever should be able to be removed, and I can go ahead and remove both of those bolts, and that should be this entire tensioner removed. And then the two bolts to remove the rest of the tensioner are actually 11mm, which seems very strange to me. I tried a 10 on it, didn't fit. 11mm seems to fit. Yeah, very strange. 11mm bolts. And there is the tensioner now removed. Now, as you can see, my hands, or the gloves rather, are filthy. That's because there seems to be a whole lot of oil near the bottom of the engine. And I think what I'm going to do is, before I start, reinstalling the new tensioners and the entire drive belt kit, I'm going to give everything a good clean down, a good deep degrease, just so I can get everything as clean as possible, because yeah, this stuff is nasty. I'm glad I wore gloves. Okay, so now that everything is much cleaner, it's now time to start reassembling everything. I've actually already went ahead and reinstalled our new tensioner at the back here that goes underneath the high pressure fuel pump. So I've put the 2 bolts that secures the tensioner to the engine. And I've also put that bolt in the end as well, and now all I need to do is insert the shaft, and then I can go ahead and tighten that up. Okay, so this is our first tensioner, the main drive belt tensioner, installed. So essentially all it is just the 2 bolts, one there and the one there, and then the bolt that holds the rod in place to the tensioner, that 10mm at the back there. With all that tightened down, then we can now start reinstalling all of this. So we need to have the alternator, which is just hiding underneath this plastic bag, and then plug everything back in, and then we have the power steering pump, and then the boost pipe and anything else that needs reconnecting. And then once all that is back, I'm then just going to go ahead and do the last tensioner, and then finally the idler pulley, which sits just there. So then, as you can see, everything is now pretty much back together. The alternator is reinstalled, the power steering pump is reinstalled, this boost pipe and everything else that goes along with it over this side. And I've also installed the new AC belt tensioner, and now I'm going to go ahead and install our new idler pulley. So I've got the car back down on the floor, under tray is now back on. It's time to start installing these new drive belts. You have to install the main drive belt first, the one that goes closest to the engine. Obviously, if you go ahead and install the AC one first, you won't be able to get this one on. So I just need to double check the routing of this main one, and then we'll go ahead and slide it on and take the tension off so we can put this in position. So I believe we have the main drive belt in the correct orientation then, so it goes round the crankshaft pulley and round the alternator, and then under and over the idler pulley, and then it goes round the power steering pump, and then round the water pump, up and over the tensioner, back under, and then round to the crankshaft pulley. So I've just got to go ahead and take the tension off of the tensioner, and I'll be able to get this over the power steering pump then. Everything's lined up. I believe so. And there we are then. That's the first main drive belt installed under proper tension now. Now it's just a case of getting the smaller AC belt installed. And there we go then. That is the AC belt installed under tension. And that is this job pretty much done. So we'll just do a quick rundown of what we have done today then. So we have replaced this tensioner here, which is in two parts. There is the pulley part with the lever, and then it goes through to the actual tensioner in the rear. And we have also replaced this tensioner, which again is the same, is comprised of two parts. And then we've replaced the idler pulley along with the two drive belts, the main drive belt and then the AC belt as well. Wow, there we go then. That is the complete drive belt kit replacement on the BMW M47 in my E46. Like I said, this process is pretty much the exact same for the M57 engine as well. Now, like I said earlier, if you do have the later M47 and M57 engines, the process will be slightly easier. The later tensioners are not those two-piece tensioners, they're just the ones where it's pretty much just held into the engine block with one bolt. You know, there's no need to remove like the alternator, power steering pump and all that. You know, it's a whole lot easier. Just to do like a regular drive belt kit, you should really get it done within an hour. But if your drive belt kit is like mine with those two-piece tensioners, then you're looking at a good few hours to do the job. But yeah, I wanted to make this video because I'm pretty sure there's like no video on the internet of doing this process. I have checked myself, and yeah, I really can't see any videos replacing the drive belt kit on this engine. So yeah, I hope you guys have found some value in this, and yeah, I hope you have enjoyed it. So please remember to give this video a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe if you have not already done so, and I will see you all in that next one. Peace!